success over the next week, Dan? What are you looking to get accomplished that you can still get done in the next 3 practices?
It's a good question. One thing we did coming out of this last scrimmage is we gave every single one of our players an individual improvement goal, right? Not 15 things. One thing they can focus on in the next 2 practices, 3 practices to really work and improve on. So for me, it's seeing some of those guys hit some of those target goals or improve in those areas is a big piece. And then just overall functionality within a game, the movements within a game, what that looks like, recreating a game as much as possible.
Do you try and break practice up into teams to get ready for the spring game, or do you just all the way through the same?
Combination. Today we've been practicing like we've been practicing. When we get closer to Saturday, we'll definitely sequence that a little bit differently.
Was Noah out there today?
No, he's under the weather.
When it comes to honorary coaches, what was the process like in choosing those guys, and is that something that you'll plan to continue to do in the coming years, or do you not know yet?
I don't completely know that answer. I know that this program was built on players like those guys, legends that really put in blood, sweat, and tears for Duck football, and we want to do everything we can to reconnect those people with our program. Obviously, they've gone on to have great careers, and we're going to have a lot of players in the future that go on to do the same thing. And we want them back around our program as much as possible. We love that.
Are you guys doing any salute to service events for players?
There's going to be some military events going on throughout Duck Day on Saturday.
I'm sure personnel. Was Brian Addison out there today either?
I'm not dinged up under the weather as well.
So Justin Flo participated in the 11 on 11 and the linebacker drills for the first time. Just what have you seen from them? How is he progressing in his health?
He's just eager. He's eager to get to work. He has an infectious personality and an enthusiasm in the way he approaches every day. He knows he's got a long ways to go. We're going to continue to chart his progress and see what it looks like as he moves forward. But definitely fun to see him out there.
Are you hoping he can go for the spring game maybe?
We'll see.
Are there any transfer players or true freshmen that you've seen take a huge step in leadership this spring camp?
I wouldn't say, right now. I think there's a lot of guys that are working hard, but I don't know if anybody's, separating himself.
When you guys were deciding the nickel position in particular, just how to go about handling that personnel, just either rotation-wise or who was going to end up sticking there and whatnot. What about Jamal makes him a good fit in your opinion? Obviously, he was doing it before, so was Bennett. But what about Jamal makes him a good fit for what you're looking for?
Jamal's coachable. He's smart. And I think those are 2 things that are really important on our defense. I think, he plays with a presence on the edge. He's one of those true guys you could say at times looks like a linebacker and plays like a linebacker, but then also has the skill set of a DB. So for me, a guy that can be an edge on the force, perimeter your defense, Jamal shows that.
What will your role be on Saturday? Will you be kind of overseeing the whole thing? Are you going to be working mostly with defense?
No, definitely oversee the whole thing. Yeah, it's going to be, big picture view. I got to do a great job of, making sure our coaches and our players know what my expectation is and what that looks like, and I'm going to be looking for that to come out.
It looked like Christian Gonzalez was a little bit limited out there today. Do you have any update on him?
He's fine. Just being precautionary.
You've talked a lot about efficiency through spring camp and how that's like one of the first things you watch in film. How do you think that's progressed now that we're in spring game week?
Better than it was, not good enough. There's certainly a lot of room for improvement there as we move forward. And I think, we talked to our guys about going to the doctor and taking some medicine. Regardless if we win or lose, within success, you got to be able to find something you can improve. And we want to continue to take the medicine of areas that we can get better at.
We've seen you guys break out in the special teams drills at the beginning of practices. What's the importance of putting an emphasis on special teams for you guys?
It's going to be a winning edge for us. Right? We're going to win games because of special teams here.
When did you meet Joe before this? Did you guys have a working relationship?
Yeah, Joe and I worked together at Arizona State and at Memphis.
You're losing a lot of guys in the wide receiver room. Who have you seen, a lot of sophomores, take a big step in the leadership, or a big step in this spring camp? Who have you seen make the biggest jump?
It's kind of rotated every single day. It's been different guys today. Seven McGee and Chris Hudson really stood out. They had good days today. But then it's been other guys on other days. Coda has done a good job coming in. So I think that continues to be really fluid. Some of our tight ends are making some good plays in the passing game as well.
When you first got here, I know Troy put on a little bit compared to how he first came in, but he was listed 169 pounds at 6'2". That's obviously pretty wiry for a receiver. Have you seen that? How do you guys go about addressing that with him this offseason in terms of just filling out his framework in order to be an every down receiver?
Yeah, Troy's got to make a decision as well, and I think Troy would tell you that he's got to continue to look to put on weight, but that's going to be something that's going to be important for him moving forward and his progress as a player. I'm looking for him to continue to do that, but he has to be aware of his nutrition, has to have a plan, and obviously we're going to help set that for him.
The nickname of the group before you got here for the receivers, that freshman, well now sophomore group, was the Skinnies. I'm assuming you would like the name to change, probably. So
I haven't heard it, so
well, it's been thrown around quite a bit, but mainly by them, it's self-created. So how would you like your receivers to be known?
Yeah, I want it to be known by the way we play on the field, and you can, dynamite comes in small packages, right? I'm not as concerned about what we just look like. I'm concerned about how we play. And certainly we're going to be, Wilson Love's as good as anybody in the business when it comes to developing guys in the weight room. But we want to have every advantage we can. We want to be a physical group that threatens deep down the field.
Does Chris Hudson kind of help set the tone for that? Obviously, a physical guy, loves sticking his nose in the block. Is he sort of along that mold?
Chris has a competitive nature. He has a competitive nature. He comes out there, he has a lot of dog in him, which I love, and you want to see that day in and day out. And I think Chris would tell you that he needs to be more consistent, day in and day out with his operation, which he's working on doing.
Sorry, how have you seen what sophomore receiver, this case he was talking about? How have you seen them kind of work Justice along, because they were kind of in his position last year?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it specifically to player, but I know Justice is drinking out of a fire hose early on, and I'm excited that you see him improve every single practice. A little bit more knows what he's doing, right? Catches the ball with a little more authority, runs routes with a little more enthusiasm. You see that each day, and if he continues to improve, it's going to lead to him being a good player.
You guys signed and announced Kyle Casper. Just your thoughts on his addition to that receiver room and kind of impact he can make when he gets here in July.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Kyler. Big catch radius. Obviously a phenomenal family, really special talent though that works really hard, has a pedigree, but it's not just because of his talent. It's because of how hard he works.
You don't normally see basketball. You do reclass, but in football that doesn't normally happen. When did that come on the table? You feel like, and just is that unique just for him, or is that kind of a growing trend? You feel like?
I think it's more and more you're going to see guys graduating earlier. It's been, obviously in the last few years more mid-year. Yeah. But if a guy puts himself in position and they're ready to go play college football, I think it makes sense for certain guys. Each person is a case-by-case basis.
Talked about how last year your unit was the no-name defense, and that was the way you went about things. When you're going through as a program, just install of offense, install of defense, learn the coach, learn the practice plans for you guys from the jump. How much of spring has to be about just learning each other before you can get to taking themes, or can you get to, by the end of spring, instilling identity? Is that part of it, or is that a August conversation?
No, identity happens every single day in your program. The question is, what's our identity, right? And you don't necessarily know that until you see how you operate, So your players are going to take on that identity through time, and we're going to define our DNA traits. All those things we've waited to do until we see what kind of team we are. But as you go through spring, I think we're a lot closer today, knowing what kind of team we are than we were when we first started.
Will quarterbacks get even opportunity on Saturday?
Yeah, we'll play it like a game, so they'll go in sequence, but we'll see a lot of snaps between all those guys.
We've seen a bit of a change in alignment on the offensive line throughout the last few practices. Can you talk a little bit about how guys are getting comfortable at different positions on that offensive line?
Yeah, it's a fine balance because you want continuity, but you also want to make sure your best 11 are on the field. The more you can do for your team, the better we can be as a team. Right, so we're going to move guys around and challenge ourselves to make sure we can have the best lineup, possible, and adjusting guys around. So that's, I appreciate those guys being versatile, right? But it gives us an advantage on offense and defense if we can play guys at multiple positions, kind of like we've talked about.
What does it take for a guy like Stephen Jones to go from tackle to the inside guard?
You got to be smart. You got to be smart, and you got to have a want to. And Stephen certainly has both those things.
One of the focuses last year on defense was getting Adrian Jackson into maybe more of an every down role, getting that consistency from him. What have you seen from him in spring and his development?
He plays fast and with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. I think we still got to get him pointed in the right direction at times, but I love his juice, his demeanor. He has good blitzability. So yeah, it's about trying to figure out your players and what their skill set is that fits.
With this being your first spring game, Dan, beyond obviously a packed house and the weather holding out for you, what do you want the 30, 40, 50,000 people who show up on Saturday, what do you want them to leave Autzen Stadium with this first impression of you, your staff, and seeing it in that form?
Yeah, the weather's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see. I know it's going to be great. And we're excited for all the fans to come and enjoy a great atmosphere of football. Look, I told our players today that someday that ball goes flat. Someday this ends, and you're gonna want this moment. You're gonna want the opportunity to go out there and practice. You're gonna want the opportunity to go play. We want to go do that on Saturday. We're excited to get out there and go to work, and we want the fans to leave excited about the product that's on the field.
They were going to vote on it last week, but it's been tabled for another week or two. But the proposal to have unlimited official visits would you be in favor or against that idea? And if you're in favor of it, how do you want to? How would you go about implementing it here?
I'm in favor of seeing my family every once in a while, right? So if we have unlimited official visits, I'll be the first coach to say, hey, it would be okay if we could every once in a while see my wife and kids, right? And I think every other coach would say the same thing. I want to get kids here as much as possible on campus. We're going to do that. We're going to use every rule that we can to get players here, and it certainly makes sense for players to be able to have the opportunity to go see places that they're interested in being, right? But on the same note, it'd be nice to be able to hang out with my crew every once in a while. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you.